Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to In Our Community. Today, I'll be your host, Marc Isaac Potter, and I'm also going to be your guest. I had been a Zen teacher years ago, and I'm starting to get back into it. I've got a beautiful manuscript called Meditations on Being Human, and today we're going to work with an excerpt of that manuscript. Now, the excerpt itself is about 50 pages, so we're only going to get a few pages done today, probably. I'm going to need to move my head back and forth because I've got another screen over here and I've got my timer over here. I'm kind of a one-man show. I don't have a staff to make this all better. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm putting up the written document, the 50-page document. And my version of Meditations on Being Human is that we're going to look at Zen. We're going to briefly mention other types of spirituality, like Adyashanti. We're going to briefly mention TM and yoga and stuff like that. And I really want you to just decide for yourself what you want. You may not want to do meditation. There's other things you can do. We cover that in here. Or you may want to try some form. Maybe your sister does TM, or maybe your brother went to Adyashanti. Those are all very good ways to do it. The one we're going to talk about the most is called Soto Zen, and it's a formal type of Zen. It's one of the two main types. There is Soto and there's Rinzai. Those are the two main types. So let's get started. Like I say, I'm going to be looking away. So, all right, I'm going to read a little bit and then I may discuss. We'll see how it goes. I've got to get my document here. Excuse me for my throat. It's been doing this all day. A big jug of iced tea here to try to relieve my cough. Okay, my introduction starts like this. Lately, I have been doing a lot more meditation. Okay, Dogen, 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 the founder of Soto Zen, said that Zen is to sit Zazen. Now, Zazen is the sitting meditation. And in Soto Zen, you're most concerned with the sitting. The sitting is the main part of the practice. There are some koans. There really are koans. And there's lots of other things if you go far through it. I have to say, I was only studying in Soto formally for about a year and a half. Excuse my throat. Other than that, I studied a long time with Adyashanti. I studied with Mary Fisher. I studied with Jerry, whose last name, forgive me, I can't remember. So I studied most of the time with what the formal Zen people would call a road teacher or an unauthorized teacher. So I just want to be upfront about that. That's where most of my training is. So I lean to the spiritual side rather than the discipline side, but nonetheless, we're going to be talking about Soto because it was really powerful for me after having done studied with Adyashanti for I don't remember how many years. It's certainly more than 10 and possibly even more than that. It might be 15. I don't know. I don't remember. All right, so let's go back to our document here. Dogen The founder of Soto Zen said that Zen is to sit zazen. So again, what that means is just sitting in the formal uh, posture that you use in Zen when you go there the first time. And I've got a great place to send you to if that's something you want to do. I don't do it much. I don't do it anymore at all. I do a much more relaxed version. But all right, I got the essence of this Soto Zen, and I'm being a little far-fetched here by saying I got the essence of it. I don't think I got something. Let's say that. I don't know if it was the essence, but let's say so far I'm leaving it written like this. I got the essence of this before I began practicing Zazen. I got the essence of it because my lovely wife, Carol, who I cannot say enough about. She was an absolute angel, very powerful woman. I got the essence because my lovely wife, Carol, passed away in August of 1995. For 12 months after that, many, many times, I would just go over to an overstuffed chair in the house that I was living in. I would just sit. I would just sit in the overstuffed chair and I would not do anything. I would not think. I would barely breathe. And without knowing it then, I was practicing Zazen, admittedly in a more relaxed way. It was the most natural thing to me to just sit. So that's the beginning. Now, I really do want you to learn something about Zazen. Later, I met Adyashanti, and Adyashanti is a rather famous teacher now, and he's all over the internet. You can find him on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere. Later, when I met Adyashanti, I learned a little about Zazen. Now, Adyashanti would probably put it differently than that. He would say that it was a different kind of awakening. Uh, but my perception, my opinion is that during the beginning, he was leaning more into Zazen. Uh, sometime, sometime in there, we also studied Nisargadatta, who is a famous Indian guru. And I can't remember the name of his kind of teaching, but he's also on the internet. Nisargadatta, it's a long word. I don't remember how to spell it. Later, I met Adyashanti. I began to learn a little about Zazen. Learning about Zazen does not have very much to do with intellectual learning. Now, because it's spiritual, we're gonna have a lot to say about intellectual learning, what part it plays. Mostly the best idea is to pay attention to things that matter to you. You probably can't pay attention to everything, but pay attention to what matters to you a lot and try to pay attention to it more than you have in the past. And I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm just another guy trying to practice. So, in Zen, at least in some aspects of Zen, in some communities of Zen practice, intellectual knowledge is not the main concern. This is exemplified in the title and text of one of our favorite sutras. Sutras are sayings in Zen that we chant sometimes or just repeatedly say. This particular sutra is called the Great Wisdom Beyond Wisdom, Heart Sutra. And what it means by that is a certain kind of wisdom beyond what we think of as normal wisdom, like intellectual wisdom. And I might even go as far as to say emotional intelligence. It goes beyond that. The title of the sutra is saying that real wisdom is beyond conventional intellectual wisdom. At some point in Zen practice, this becomes obvious. And this part is about, and I'm making different points here. I'm trying to not go fast, but I have this all written in here. It's pretty, each part is very short, so it's easy to read. Okay. Knowing and not knowing, asking questions, which means asking questions, and also living in the question. I've got some stuff written here about it, so I'm going to read that first in case I'm just repeating myself too much. One of the ways to grow is to be committed to finding out about that which you do not know, to be willing to go forward toward that of which we have previously been unaware. Honestly, for me, these many years, I have done this almost to a fault. When I find something of which I have previously been unaware, I become very curious about it. And I didn't write this in a text, but I've always explained it to friends privately as me being a heat-seeking missile. I just really go toward what I do not know. Lately, last 10, 15 years, it's been art, studying Kandinsky and George Kondo and Liechtenstein. There's a new kind of cubism now, and I can't remember the first part of the phrase, but it's a type of cubism that I'm learning about. I just found out about it today, in fact. I am not talking only about the usual knowing or not knowing. Let me edit something here. This is going to be a practice. I don't want to put this in here. I knew I didn't want it in here. All right, so there we go. I am not talking only about the usual knowing and not knowing, the notion that the intellect will not do you much good in discovering who you are. So, as I said before, intellect is not going to help you with your spirituality in the practice of Zazen. It will help you in other religions. Other religions are based on intellectualness. And by the way, Zen is a religion. I mean, you can try to package it and frame it as not really being a religion. And you will hear that a lot in Zen probably, but it's a religion. At least in the beginning, you would think of it as one. But it doesn't, I guess I'll go on to say it doesn't conflict. I'm also a Christian. I'm a practicing Christian. I don't go to church anymore because I'm an old man now, but I used to go to church, and I loved my church. I'm an Episcopal, which is, we're more liberal. We marry gay people. We have women priests. It's what I like about it the most. All right. So in this case, in the case where you're trying to discover something and you're being told that you can't really rely on your intellect. And, by the way, just go, if you want to rely on your intellect, just go and rely on it, but also sit. And if you do both long enough, something good will happen. The only reason I was able to get some results within a couple of years or a year and a half was that I had studied with Adyashanti for like 10 years or something. I think it was longer than that, but I already said that. But I repeat myself because in a video, it's hard to get all the information. It goes by very fast. So I do try to repeat. In this case, I'm talking about good old intellectual knowledge. Okay, now we're going to talk about intellectual knowledge. as well as the new kinds of knowledge that we present in Zen. So we're going to talk about them both. And in this sentence, the word Zen wasn't capitalized, and Grammarly likes it capitalized. I don't know why they didn't correct this. I use the first level of Grammarly. I don't use the AI stuff. I use the, spelling and like that. All right, I'm too chatty today, I guess. Okay, sitting Zazen. When you sit Zazen, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying that on purpose. You have so many questions about sitting, am I right? And of course, everybody's going to have questions about sitting. For example, you may have questions about having thoughts during Zazen. Okay, and this is something that I can happily say we have some input for you about this. You, for example, you may have questions about having thoughts during Zazen. Okay, so your thoughts when sitting. Yes, you're going to have thoughts. You will have thoughts. Of course you will. It is not the goal of Zazen to get rid of your thoughts. And you're going to hear me say this many times. When you're sitting and you're quiet and the thoughts come in, you simply let them come in and let them go back out. Just like, traffic or there's other examples I want to use that I probably shouldn't use, but something going by. Let's say a dog is passing by that you really like, or I don't know, somebody's pushing a shopping cart and you find it interesting, or it's a homeless person and you're noticing. They're going to come into your frame of vision and they're going to go back out. And that's what we do with thoughts. We let them come in. They're welcome to come in. We don't necessarily encourage them to come in, but we don't stop them from coming in at all. We don't put any energy on that, which I call charge. We don't put any charge on that. Because, as one teacher used to say, what you resist persists. Now think about it. If you're resisting your thoughts, if you're sitting there saying, I can't have thoughts, I shouldn't have thoughts, my mind should be clear, the goal of Zen is to clear my mind. No, it's not. What you resist is going to persist. And we're down to 8 minutes already, so we're going to have to do about 100,000 shows in order to get this entire book. We're on page 12 out of a 50-page book, or more than that. Let me look. 142 pages at this. It's really 50 pages when you're at 12-point font, but when I made it bigger to see, it's not, there's probably, 12? If I could do 12 and a half an hour, I could do what? I don't even know how many, 100? Certainly 10 or something, or 15 or 20. So just sit. Dogen says, so what you resist persists. And the way to handle this is just sit. Sit in meditation. And whether it's TM or whatever it is. Now, in structured Soto Zen, you get up early in the morning, you're at the Zen Center by 5:30 a.m. and you sit for about 40 minutes. And you do this 5 days a week. So it really becomes a habit. And it's a precious, in my personal opinion, it's a precious life-changing habit. But if you go in there with that in your mind, okay, this is going to be, see, the mind, I'll be saying a lot about the mind. The mind wants to exist. The mind's job is self-preservation. So the mind will put up defenses against anything new that it thinks will challenge its existence. We're not going to be challenging its existence, but the mind thinks so. That's enough of that for now. We're going to get to that later. More. Okay, in traditional Zen, there are very structured ways to sit. And there's a very good book, which I'm sure I'm going to be talking about here. I can't remember the name of the book now. It's by Suzuki Roshi. Something like Beginner Zen, or something. It's by Suzuki Roshi. The word Suzuki is spelled like the motorcycle, and Roshi is just a title that means teacher. So that's easily obtainable on Amazon or any or independent bookstores. Some people will be attracted to searching out the structured ways to sit. I certainly invite you to do that if it's something that attracts you. In our everyday lives, most people cannot do such a structure for an extended period. It takes a while to get used to. So for you and I would much rather that you design the way of sitting that works for you. As I said before, any other kind or this, whatever you want to do. Only sit Zazen if you do want to try sitting. Pick a position and a length of time that will work for you. Now, if you're doing it at home, which I do not recommend in the beginning because you need a teacher, but if you do it at home in the beginning, you can pick your own position and length of time. You might just sit in a chair for 10 minutes. Just sit there. Don't close your eyes. Don't go in a special position. Don't worry about your thoughts. Just sit there. And if you did that for 6 months or a year, every day, it might change. But my opinion is it's more helpful for a beginner to go to a formal Zen Soto center. So there's a Sanskrit word I'm looking for, and I can't remember what it is. I can remember a lot of other words, but okay. When you are sitting, let the thoughts come and go. Let them come in, let them go out. In and out. In and out. Just as they please. Do not give them any extra charge or extra energy or charge in any way, in any regard. Okay, now we're going to have to, well, we don't have to leave yet, but I'm going to be signing off here in a little while. We got about three minutes left here. And I do not pretend to give them a charge, the thoughts. Don't pretend to give them a charge. If you have a lot of feelings, a lot of charge, if you have a lot of feelings or a lot of charge on one particular thought, if you get stuck on a thought or if you get stuck on an emotion, it's okay. Don't worry about it. That thought is going to eventually leave. It might be in your head for a day, but you've not ever had the same thought for more than what, 2 seconds? You know what I mean? Thoughts come and go. All righty. Next section is called enlightenment. That's kind of highfalutin. It's on some level, we won't talk about this in this book, but well, enlightenment itself can be a trap. That's a long way off from what a beginner is working on. Okay, it's called enlightenment, completion, completeness. Nothing is ever completely complete. Okay, there's a lot of, before I get to read this entire sentence, there's a lot of paradox and contradiction in Zen. One thing and the exact opposite of that thing exist in the same space at the same time, and it happens a lot. So nothing is ever completely complete, and each moment is complete. So that is definitely a contradiction and somewhat of a paradox. Nothing is ever completely complete, and you can tell in your own life, you packed to go somewhere and you forgot this and you forgot that. But also the moment itself is a very complete thing. You're in your moment, you're there. You went camping or something and it's beautiful and you're enjoying yourself and it's the best vacation you've had in, a year. You're in that moment. That's the completeness. And completeness is actually always there. Incompleteness is always there. They're both always there. In Zen, there are a lot of things that seem like contradictions and paradoxes. All right, I am going to stop there. This is show number 1, and my alarm is going to definitely go off. I'm going to go back to the Zoom thing so I can look you in the eye and say something. I really care about you guys, and I'm trying to do something decent here. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. I watch a lot of TikTok, and I know it's 2 or 3 minutes or 1 minute. Watching something for a half an hour is challenging. I let this ring because I really like this sound. I really like this sound. So let me turn it off, and then I'll speak to you a little bit longer. Okay, we turned that off. Just thank you. I want to thank you for listening. If you have questions, there's going to be my email on the screen. I think my phone number will be at the end of the show when the credits come up. And who did what. I'm the owner of the show. So if you want to call me on the phone, it's still early in my teaching. So I'm not big enough to say, no, call my people. I don't have people right now. I'm just doing this. So let me go ahead and stop. You've been listening to In Our Community. I'm your host, Marc Isaac Potter, and I really appreciate you. If you feel like it, stay tuned for future shows. Namaste.